Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday the haunting event went live for Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone, and with it there was a couple of new things and features and ways to farm blueprints and new various free items. Yesterday we went over killing all of the bosses within Warzone and the easiest way to do so on that front. But there's also one other event currently going on in game, and I have found a much better way to farm for souls, which is kind of like the currency for this season reloaded or the haunting. And I guarantee you what you are doing isn't as fast as what I am going to show you today. So if you didn't already know, there's essentially a currency called souls. And with these souls, as you earn them, you can unlock various things in game. For example, like what we have here, which is a weapon blueprint called the Violent End. And eventually, come next week, they're adding in a new reactive camo that is probably going to cost around 1,000 souls to actually unlock, which means you have to earn a lot of these souls if you want to get all of the mastery rewards like you're seeing here for getting 10 and 15 items unlocked. The question is, what is the fastest way to get souls? Well, first, let me explain to you how the souls actually work. I real quickly want to say that the souls work differently in multiplayer and in Warzone, and you'll see what I mean by that as we go through here. So first off, let's start off with multiplayer. The game mode that most people play all of the time in multiplayer is Shipment 24/7. And essentially the way that this works is when you hop in a game of multiplayer, for every kill that you get, each player that you kill is going to drop 2 souls. Now, the caveat to this is, number 1, you have to run over their body and pick up the souls, and number 2, it has to be a different player every time. If you kill the same player within a game, it is not going to give you any more souls. So those are the 2 things that you need to know. The other thing is, based off of the game mode that you are playing, you're only going to be able to capture a certain amount of souls per game. So, for example, the game that you're watching here is 8 souls. And I think that is the same with each 6v6 mode in multiplayer. But the problem with multiplayer is if you leave a game, so say you get all 8 souls within a game and you leave, it is not going to give you any of those souls that you collected. What this means is that the faster a multiplayer mode, in other words, the faster the game, the faster you are going to collect those souls because you can't leave the game. So essentially what it comes down to is which multiplayer modes are the fastest to complete. And essentially you have 2 options here. The first one is Zombie Infected. So this was recently added with this season, and this one goes incredibly quickly. Essentially, all you have to make sure that you do is you kill 4 individual zombies, after which point, if you get infected, you just run around, try to kill everyone, and generally, these games last anywhere from 2 to 5-ish minutes, which means you are collecting 1 soul every 35 to 45 seconds, which is relatively quickly. Your second option here is Gun Game. Gun Game goes relatively quickly. The problem is there's only 2 players on the enemy team, which means you only have to get 2 kills, but you have to run over their bodies before the round is over. And on some of the maps, that is very, very difficult. You have to play very aggressively, but again, these games end relatively quickly, and you technically only have to get 2 kills to be successful with it. So the other idea that I had was going into Invasion, which is of course a bigger team game, which does give you the option to collect more souls. In this game, you can collect 12, and it's incredibly easy to do so. There are bots and there are enemy players, and I found myself collecting souls incredibly quickly. The problem with this is that these games last a very, very long time, and again, if you leave mid-game, you don't get to collect any of these souls. So, in other words, the problem with multiplayer is you have to wait an entire game to collect your souls, and you're not getting very many souls per game. So from here, we went over to DMZ. In DMZ, I figured this would be a pretty easy way to collect souls because you could just kill bots, get as many as you can, and then extract or die or any of the options, and you would be fine. And you could just go in with a throwing knife, pick up a weapon, and be able to kill all of these bots. In fact, that was the best way of getting trophies within the trophy hunt event in Season 3. The problem I ran into is once you are in game and you are killing bots, they drop almost no souls whatsoever. Now, this was a problem within the trophy event in Season 3, and then they actually buffed the drop rate, and then DMZ was actually the best way to get these. So pay attention to it. If it gets buffed, look at Twitter. I'll tweet it out on Twitter, that kind of thing. But as of right now, DMZ is horrible for collecting souls. The one thing is you can do the events within the haunted event, and those do drop a good amount of souls. So if you're doing the butcher and things like that, you will get some good souls from that. And in DMZ, if you leave the game, you are able to collect the souls, unlike multiplayer. So this then leads us to Warzone. So as far as Battle Royale goes, the problem with Battle Royale is you really only have one life, and if you die, you're kind of screwed. You're going to be waiting there for a while. Well, it's a good thing Warzone has a couple of different modes where you actually respawn. The first of which is Massive Resurgence. In my opinion, this is the best, but not the easiest way to get souls, because in every single game, you can collect 20 souls. Every time you eliminate an enemy player, they are going to drop 3, and on top of that, if you do one of the haunted events, like killing the zombies to get to the butcher, most of those are going to drop souls as well. In other words, you can collect them very, very quickly. And on top of that, in Warzone, if you leave the game, you get to keep them. So here is the name of the game. You're going to go into Massive Resurgence. If you're playing alone, you of course are going to get a team. If you're playing with a team, it is even easier. But this is very doable alone because it's a resurgence mode. What you are going to do is you are going to drop wherever the altars of Lilith are, in other words, the butcher event. You're going to go around that area. Keep in mind that you do have to loot for weapons. If hopefully your team ends up going with you, but if they don't, that is completely okay. You are simply going to try to get eliminations and work your way towards the altars of Lilith. Even if someone gets eliminated by an enemy team, as long as you're around them, they're still going to drop souls that you can pick up. On top of that, when zombies die or you shoot zombies, they are going to drop souls as well. The name of the game is just keep doing your resurgence, getting as many kills as possible, get up to 20 souls and leave the game. I have gotten into a game and gotten 20 souls within a minute and a half and was able to leave the game and get into another one. And it is by far the fastest way to earn these souls. However, it is not the easiest. Remember how we couldn't back out of games in multiplayer? Well, what if there was a multiplayer mode in Warzone? Well, it turns out there is. There's a new thing called Vondel Lockdown, where it's essentially hardpoint on a limited Vondel map, and players just keep respawning, and you get to spawn with your loadout, which means you don't have to loot for weapons, you don't have to waste time looking for weapons, you just get in and get as many kills as possible. Now in this one, the maximum amount of souls that you can get is 16, so it's a little bit less than Massive Resurgence, and when you kill someone, it only gives you 2 souls. So with this, essentially you get 8 kills, pick them up, and then you simply leave the game. And boom, just like that, you have 16 souls. So essentially, as a quick summary, if you're playing multiplayer, the fastest 2 ways are playing Infected or Gunfight. If you are playing Warzone, you're going to either go into Massive Resurgence and quads, make sure you have a team, and just keep resurgencing, go around the altars of Lilith, kill as many zombies and people as you can, and once you hit 20 souls, back out of the game and do the same thing over and over again. It's the fastest farming technique. But if you are having trouble doing that, go into Vondel Lockdown, get 8 kills, get your 16 souls, back out of the game, and do the same thing again. These are the easiest and fastest ways to actually earn these souls, unless DMZ gets buffed, because right now, DMZ completely sucks. So hopefully this was able to help you out. If it did, be sure to hit that like button, make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on everything Call of Duty, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace out.